Hello guys, Charles here and welcome back to my channel. So we're taking it back to basics today and we're talking note names. Hopefully you'll find this video useful either if you're a complete beginner or you're someone who's been playing for a while but still finds that slight hesitancies about naming your notes is holding back your playing, as of course it will do. So we're going to go through a couple of exercises that we can use to better understand the layout of the note names on the guitar, which are far more confusing than they are on a keyboard, for example. Some people say it's kind of like having 6 keyboards all running parallel to one another, because on the guitar we need to learn where the notes live on all 6 strings, whereas of course on the piano there's only 12 notes repeating up and down through the octaves. So if you're a complete beginner, or you're someone who knows your way around the guitar but's a little bit hesitant on their note names, the first place you need to start is actually putting your instrument down and just thinking about what the note names actually are. So in Western music, we use a 12-note scale. It's called the chromatic scale, but you don't need to know that. And part of the reason for the confusion with our 12 notes is the idea of sharps and flats. Now, all a sharp means is 1 note higher than, and all a flat means is 1 note lower than. On the guitar, that equates to 1 fret higher than or 1 fret lower than. We call that movement either up or down to the very next note a semitone, and the chromatic scale is built entirely from semitones, and we need to know the list of notes that creates. So away from the instrument, you need to practice reciting this list of notes. A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F sharp, G, G sharp, and A. So for that list, I used the sharp terminology for the in-between notes. Next up, we need to get used to saying it using flats. A, B flat, B, C, D flat, D, E flat, E, F, G flat, G, A flat, A. So that's your first challenge, is to be able to recite that list just travelling upwards. You'll notice it's just the first 7 letters of the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and between most of them, we insert one of these sharp or flat notes, depending on which list we're reciting. Now, rather than remembering where they go, it's easier to remember where they don't go. So between B and C, we go straight from B to C. There's no B sharp when we're doing this exercise. Likewise, there's no C flat. So it's A sharp, B, C. The other location is we go straight from an E to an F. There's no E sharp or no F flat in this exercise. Now that's quite easy to remember because that's the letter B and E, which spells the word B, as in I would like to be good at naming my notes. So once you're confident reciting that list of notes, you don't need to understand what any of it means yet, you're just getting that list stuck in your head. You then want to try practicing it backwards. So that would sound like this. A flat, G, G flat, F, E, E flat, D, D flat, C, B, B flat, A. And then backwards but using the sharp terminology. A, G sharp, G, F sharp, F, E, D sharp, D, C sharp, C, B, A sharp, A. And that's every possible combination we've used. Now something to clarify at this point is that sharps and flats are not hard notes. They are not notes that we reserve for people who can play the guitar properly or play the piano properly. Often because of the way we teach these instruments, it can feel that way, like, oh well, I'm only a beginner, so I'm not ready for the sharps or flats yet. That's absolute nonsense. If you take a keyboard and you try pressing a black key versus a white key, you'll find they're just as easy to press. It's just about getting confident with this list of notes and understanding where they all tie in together. And once you understand them in your head, you'll probably find that when we move on to the instrument, which we're about to do, it's far easier to apply them. So that first challenge, you've got to be able to recite your musical alphabet forwards and backwards using either sharps or flats in both directions. Step 2 is looking at how this applies on the instrument. Now I'd recommend that you don't try this until you've at least been working on the first step for somewhere from a week or 2 to a month or 2. That should be a really serious exercise for you, really committing that to memory. Whenever you're in the shower, doing the dishes, driving the car, you can be reciting that list. It needs to be automated. It needs to be automatic. You need to know that list of notes so well. The biggest reason that people struggle to name the notes on the instrument is they don't really know what the notes are in the first place. So make sure you've mastered that exercise, and now we're going to move on to step 2, which is applying it to the instrument. So in order to do this, we need to memorize another little saying. Now this saying is elephants and donkeys grow big ears. Now all that is it an anagram? I think that's the right word, or an acronym or something like that. But each of those words is assigned to a string from your head down to your toes. Now I have a 7-string guitar, so ignore the string nearest my face. This second string down for me is the one that you've got nearest your face. So that would be elephants and donkeys grow big ears. E-A-D-G-B-E. Now just learning that means you can now tune your guitar, because one of the problems with electric tuners is they tell you whether you're in tune or out of tune, but they don't tell you if your string is the correct note. So now when you go to tune your guitar, you know you're trying to make the string nearest your face say E and go green, A, go green, D, go green, and so on and so forth through the list. Elephants and donkeys grow big ears. Now once we simply take those first 2 exercises, which is memorising your list of letters and memorising your string names, neither of which really required the guitar. Of course you can revise your string names without you having your guitar there. Combining those together starts to really open up our understanding of how the guitar works with this information. So let's use the A string, which is the 2nd string down from your face. Some of you might call that the 5th string of the guitar. So the 2nd string down from your face is elephants and. So we're on the and string. So when we play that string without pressing any frets down, we know it's the note A. Easy peasy. Now because we've memorised our list of notes by now, we've spent the last 2 weeks to 2 months revising that, this is going to be a very easy exercise for you. If you find this exercise difficult, you haven't spent enough time on the first 2 exercises, which is absolutely fine. It's actually quite useful for you to know that, because otherwise you're going to be wasting your time trying to get this exercise down, when again you need to get the list down, which you can practice anywhere, all the time, day and night. So here we go. We're going to play fret 0 is A. And every fret we add, which would be fret 1 next, for example, we're just going 1 note through the list that we memorised in the first exercise. So let's use the sharps terminology for now. So we're going to have A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A. Fantastic. Now that exercise has taught us 2 important markers. We want to have markers that we can kind of see scattered around the neck that help us out with finding the other notes. Remember, there's only 12 notes, which is good for 2 reasons. One reason is it means at most you've only got 12 notes to learn, so it's not that daunting of a challenge. But secondly is because there's only 12 notes, even if you only start learning a couple around the neck, you're never going to be too far away from the others. For example, if you learn where E lives, you know 1 fret higher is going to be F, and 1 fret lower is going to be E flat. So by learning 1, you've kind of learned 3. So here's the 2 important markers we've just learned by playing through that exercise. The first one is that by the time we get to fret 12, we're back to what the open string was, fret 0. So when I got to fret 12 here, I said A. So all of the fret 12s are the same note as your open string. So fret 12 is also elephants and donkeys grow big ears. So we now know the notes here and we know the notes here. So we only need to fill in, there's only working out the middle stuff here. So if we can get an extra couple of markers in there, that's going to really help us out. So the next thing we noticed when we were playing through that list, if I play through it again, I'm going to stop at an important point. A sharp or B flat, B, C, C sharp or D flat, D, stop there. So I'm on fret 5 and I've just said D. Well, I'm on the and string here, the A string, and I know it's elephants and donkeys. So the 5th fret there is also D. It's the same note as the next open string. So I've got another marker there. I now know that playing the 5th fret on one string gives me the same as the next string open. 5th fret, next string open. Same note. So if I do that on all the strings, watch this. I'm on the low string here, elephants. E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A. I'm now on the 5th fret and it's A, which is the same as my next string, elephants and. A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D. 5th fret, and that's the same note as my next open string, donkeys. Keep going, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G. G, and it's the same as the next open string, which is grow. Elephants and donkeys grow big ears. G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C. I'm on the 5th fret and my next string is, oh, well, we've got a problem here because the next string isn't a C word, is it? It's a B word, it's grow big. Now this is really important. There is a tuning issue with the guitar where the strings are not all the same distance apart. Now it doesn't require you to worry about it too much. All you need to know is that moving from your 3rd string to your 2nd string, it's the 4th fret at which point the strings match up. Now, like I say, you don't need to worry about this because if you've done the first 2 exercises, you'll be able to understand this. You'll be able to see, oh, well, I know that's the G. G sharp, A sharp, B. Yeah, so it's just the 4th fret that takes me to the next string, which is big. Now, if you don't understand this, again, it means you're not confident enough with either your list of notes or the elephants and donkeys grow big ears exercise. So we need to know both of those. And like I say, once you understand that, this is just, it's kind of obvious. You just work it out and you go, oh yeah, that's just different. It's not the 5th fret anymore, it's the 4th fret on that string. So on my next string, big, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. And I'm on the 5th fret, which is E. It's the same as the next open string, which is ears. So elephants and donkeys grow big ears. The 5th fret of the previous string is the same as the next note, with the exception of the G string here, which is your 3rd string, where it's on the 4th fret where we match up. Now we just need to remember that going from string 3 to string 2 is always going to be slightly different. Now here's the final little marker that we need. So we've now got a marker on the 12th fret, which is that the 12th fret is elephants and donkeys grow big ears. And we've got a marker on the 5th fret for most of the strings, but the 4th fret for the G string. And that is taking us to the same note as the next open string. A, D, G, B, E. So here's the final marker that we need to know. So we know that the 5th fret is the same as -5 on the next string. So if we take 5 away, 5 equals 0 on the next string. Nice and simple. So because we know that the 12th fret is the same as the open string, this 12th fret here is also elephants and donkeys grow big ears. This elephants, if I minus 5 from 12, well, 12 minus 5 gives us 7. That matches the 7th fret on the next string down. So this is a final marker here. So 12 to 7 on a string pair gives us the same note. So we've got 12, 7, same note. On the A string, the AND string, we've got fret 12, which is AND. Fret 7 on the next string is also A. Oh, a little bit out of tune there, but you get the point. Fret 12 on the donkeys string is donkeys. Fret 7 on the grow string is also D. Fret 12 on the grow string is grow. Now this time again the B string is different, so it's going to be fret 8 is G. So from G to G, again, that's not going to throw us too much because we can just work it out. We can play the B string, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G. And we can see, oh yes, G is the 8th fret. It's not the 7th fret because that was F sharp or G flat. The G string is the 12th fret and the B string, the same note is on the 8th fret. So again, it's slightly different for the G to B movement, which is absolutely fine. Then finally, our 12th fret of the B string is also B for big ears, big. And the 7th fret of the next string down is also B. So by this point, you should know all your note names really, really well. You should know your string names really, really well. You should know that they are duplicated at the 12th fret. And you should know that the 5th fret of each string matches the next string up on the 0 fret. and that the 12th fret of each string matches the 7th fret on the next string up, because we've got this 5 fret difference between the strings. And you should be aware that there's an exception between the G and B strings where you've got to figure out the difference, and it's just 1 fret off. So the final step to getting confident with your note names is once you've spent months working on those previous 3 exercises, because this does take time to get confident with it. Most people can learn this stuff in a week or 2, but getting confident with it takes ages. So I'd suggest that you use the exercises we've done so far as a warm-up, and you play these daily whenever you can, and when you've not got your instrument to hand, you're revising them mentally as well. All of this stuff can be practiced in your head. You don't need your instrument to practice that the 7th and the 12th fret match up and the 5th fret and the open fret match up and all this stuff, okay? So you can revise it mentally, which really helps when you do eventually get your hands on your instrument again. So the final exercise, I'll give you an example of how to do this, but this is just going to be anything you play for the rest of your life, you need to actually think of in terms of the note names, rather than just thinking fret numbers or shapes. Now, one of the issues with the guitar is that it can be quite easy to learn using tabs and chord shapes. At first, that's great because it means we can learn a lot of stuff on the instrument and we can really sound like we know what we're doing. The problem is when anyone starts to inquire about what those notes were or what the theory behind it was, tab and chord shapes don't often give us that extra information. So what we need to do is we need to be proactive, and anything we already know, we need to try and analyse it and understand what the notes we're using are and the theory behind it. What we're going to do finally here is learn one more octave placement using cowboy chord shapes, the cowboy chords you already know. What we're going to do is we're going to take elephants, we're on our E string. If we play an E chord, the classic E cowboy chord that you all know and love, I need to know what those notes are. Now, this isn't too difficult to do. I know that I'm playing fret 0 on the string nearest my face, so that's elephants, E. Well, I'm playing fret 2 on the and string. So fret 2 is A sharp, B. I've got E, B. Then I'm playing fret 2 on the D string, D, D sharp, E. So I've got E, B, E. So I can see another octave there on the 2nd fret of the D string. So I've got the same note on the 12th fret, the 7th fret of the A string, and the 2nd fret of the D string. All of those are the note E. We've already worked those out in the previous exercises. Again, if that doesn't make sense to you, you've got to stick with the previous exercises. You haven't given them enough time. Next is the A string, the and string. Let's see where the octave of this note lives. So we know the open fret on the A string is A. Now if we play an A chord, we've got on the next string, 2nd fret of the D string. Well, we've just worked that out. The 2nd fret of the D string is E. So we've got A, E. 2nd fret of the G string, G, G sharp, A. There's our A. So we've got another A there. So to get lots of A's, we've got the open A string, the 12th fret of the A string, the 7th fret of the D string, and the 2nd fret of the G string. Okay, let's do one more of these. D chord. So if we play our cowboy D chord, we've got the note D on the donkey string. The grow string, we're playing fret 2 for a D chord. G, G sharp, A. That's the one we just worked out. So we've got D, A. And then we're playing fret 3 on the B string. B, C, C sharp, D. So that's D as well. So that's 1 fret higher than it was on the previous 2 examples, which we've come to expect from the B string. I sometimes call it the add 1 string or the plus 1 string. So where do all these Ds live? Well, we've got donkeys in the open position. We've got donkeys on the 12th fret. We've got the 7th fret of the G string, and we've got the 3rd fret of the B string. So you hear those 3 are all the same note. And then so on and so forth, we can do the same with G. G would be the open string, the 12th fret. So those are both grows, grows, grows. G would be on the 8th fret of the B string, which we've already discovered. And then it would be up here on the 3rd fret of the E string, like you'd get in a G chord here. the 3rd fret here on the top string. So at that point, we're going to close this study of note names. By this point in the video, if you've seen this through, you should be ridiculously confident with naming your note names, that you should be able to just instantly reel off the list of note names any direction, either sharps or flats. It should be no effort for you. You should also know your string names. Elephants and donkeys grow big ears, travelling from your head to your toes, and that those note names are duplicated on the 12th fret of your instrument. Elephants and donkeys grow big ears. We then learned 3 important markers. The first important marker was that the 5th fret of any string gives us the same as the open string 1 down from it. So the 5th fret of the E string gives us A, which is our next open string. The one exception to that is G to B, where it's the 4th fret of the G string that's B. Now, that shouldn't be a problem for you because you've done the previous exercises. You can always just work that out. G, G sharp, A sharp, B. We then took that same theory and applied it elsewhere on the neck and said, well, we just need a 5 fret difference. So that takes us from a fret 12 to a fret 7 on the next string down. So we now know that the fret 12 on the E string is the same as fret 7 on the A string, both E. We then used a simple chord shape to work out yet another placement of the same notes, which gives us, missing a string, the 2nd fret, and the final 2 for D and G, because we're crossing over that B string which causes us problems, it's now the 3rd fret. But we can use cowboy chords to prove that theory to ourselves. We just need to know an E, A, D and G chord really, really well. So your mission from now on is anything you study, name the notes of it. You're not going to be very good yet, and that's absolutely fine. The more times you encounter this and the more times you deliberately tackle this head on rather than just avoiding thinking about it, the easier this will get. You'll start to understand how we use sharps or flats and how we decide which one to use, and you'll start to see other connections, not just the ones we've talked about today, all over the instrument. It is a 12-note challenge that you have to meet for the whole of your life. I'm sure you'll manage to find 12 notes on your instrument before the day you die. So I hope you all found that one relatively useful, but as I've said several times throughout this video, you don't need this fella in your hands to learn where the notes live on your guitar. It's mainly up here, especially guys who can already play and already know some of their note names. Your issue probably isn't your instrument, it's just revising those relations and the naming of the notes. If you found that lesson useful, please do give this video a like, subscribe, ding the notification bell and share with any of your friends who might also find this beneficial. And as always, I hope you're all doing very well, getting plenty of practice in, and I very much look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.
Roll up, let me embed a story you'll never forget. A drip, drip, you're drowning in debt now. You can't buy your way out.